Hello and welcome to Project Art Now. Hope you are having a good time. Today I am particularly happy as I got to interview the creator of a dark fantasy story that traps you in such a good way. This is in great part thanks to the title character Etani. I am talking of course about Nikita, otherwise known as author N.Malone. If you enjoy this, please subscribe and click on the little bell. If you have done it already, then I thank you deeply. But also please show some love with a thumbs up. Also remember, your thoughts and opinions matter, so don't hesitate to share them on the comment section. This will help me create valuable content that you all deserve. This week's manga is Inuyasha. If you had the Chikono Tama, what would you wish for? I'll give you my answer at the end of the video. But now, it's time for the interview. Good to have you here, Malone. How did you become a storyteller?
Hi Miguel, thanks for having me. So I became a storyteller probably when I was around 9 years old. I would spend a lot of time in remember those old MSN chat rooms when you would role play as characters and things like that. So I started around 1999, 1998 roughly, and I was playing this character called Icy, which is, I look back on it and it's just so sad. And eventually over time that character developed and changed and eventually became Etani, who is or was the character that I played right up until about, I think it was about 5 years ago. And I just fell out of it, your friends grow up, they move on, you no longer have anybody to write with, and that was the end of it. So I didn't write anything between 5 years ago and about 2 years ago when I started actually writing the series. And I was writing just for the fun of it. I had no intention of publishing. It wasn't even in my head until I'd written probably about halfway through book 2 when my friend at work said that, he recommended that I should look into publishing it. And so I looked into it and I was thinking, okay, maybe I should. So I was still writing, and it was towards the end of book 2 when I decided that I would actually publish the books. So I started cutting it down into sections, and that's how I ended up with the first 3 books, and then it kept going until I ended up with the first 9 books, and that's where I'm at now. I haven't finished book 9, and I still have half of book 10 ready to go.
What is your favorite part of creating a story?
My favorite part of creating a story would have to be the ability to just let your mind go wherever it wants to go. You can create this entire world where anything is what you want it to be. The sky can be pink, the grass can be yellow, whatever makes you happy. And that is by far the best part of creating a story from scratch. I was never really one for using the existing world. Originally, I had planned to sort of loosely base my books on reality, but then found that things just weren't going to work out that way, and I moved everything away from that. But I kept small little details like existing cultures and backgrounds and ethnicities and things like that. So when you think of characters like Mara and Sobek, you would always have that slight imagination on what the people who worship them would look like. So you think to Mara is a Buddhist, a demon technically, but I changed him into being a god. And so if you think of Buddhism, you always think of a very specific type of person. So it made it very easy for people to be able to then go, okay, the people who worship Mara are going to generally look this way. And it made it a lot easier to adapt without having to explain or describe every single type of ethnicity. And I didn't then have to go, okay, well, people who worship Sobek were Egyptian. Well, Egypt doesn't exist. So it was just the people who worshipped Sobek or Bastet or any of the others, really. Another thing that I really like is that you can make the sky pink if you wanted to. There are parts in my books where things would be impossible in reality, but in that reality of my books, it completely make sense. So it allows you to come up with whatever you want, and it just works, and it just makes it so much more fun and enjoyable to be able to write your story that way.
Etani has made her way into the channel a couple of times by now, and my gut tells me she will be here again. Please tell us, how was she born?
Etani was a culmination of 20 odd years of imagination and writing and planning and just reacting to people on chat rooms and forums and things like that. She actually started life as a red-headed elf, like an archer sort of thing, but that just eventually developed into something else. She became an assassin. She became a brunette. Her skin turned from tan to white, and things just slowly changed as you roleplay. And I was keeping track of everything on a website that I had at the time, which is hidden now, so you probably can't find it. And I hope nobody can find it though. So I originally envisioned the story to sort of start at where the role-playing ended. So a lot of the first book and second book are very loosely based on what I had when I was role-playing with other people. Some of the species of the characters do match what I had when I was role-playing, like the Lich, the Drow brothers, the Vampire Twins. Those three were based sort of on what I had back then. And so the plan was just to build on that and keep building, but the story eventually moved away from that and I just kept writing. There was no real plan as such. I just started writing and letting my imagination go wherever it wanted to go. And that meant introducing all new characters that would just pop into my head or that I would come up with while doing research. So like characters like Naishma, she just popped into my head one day and I was like, yes, I want to have this Gorgon princess who would become Etani's best friend. And so she came into the story. When there's characters who vanish from the story, like Catherine, who I ended up having no use for. She was a character that just had no purpose, and so she didn't come back. Though I have had people say that they wish she did, unfortunately.
What plans do you have for future stories?
So my plans are to obviously finish the Etani series, which is going to be 12 books. I have written 9.5 technically, where book 10 was originally book 9, but I realized halfway through writing book 10 that I needed a lot of things to happen before we got to that point. And so I ended up moving book 9 to book 10 and then restarting book 9. So book 9 is halfway through and so is book 10. So after I finish the Etani series, I have another series in mind, which is a post-apocalyptic, doom and gloom type thing. I do really well with the doom and gloom apparently. And it's a series called Last Men Standing. And it's sort of what would happen if 3/4 of the world's population was wiped out sort of thing, and survival, but it's going to be based in Australia rather than in America, which most of them are based on. Though right now I only have a concept for it, I haven't actually done anything with it. I do have an idea of what the cover should look like though, so that's something. Other than that, I really don't know what I'll do after I finish those 2 series. I might come up with something else, you never know. Maybe I could do a reverse fairy tale, like it's after the happily ever after and everything just goes to hell. That could be fun.
Any advice for storytellers out there?
Ooh, advice. I'd probably say just write what you want to write. Write something that is fun for you to write. Don't write to trends or what might be popular at the time or what somebody else wants. Do what makes you happy and makes it so that you want to keep writing, because you can tell when somebody is writing something that they didn't want to write or they're not enjoying. It just comes out flat, and you need to remember, if you're not enjoying it, then the readers probably won't enjoy it either. Another piece of advice is just to keep in mind that everybody has different tastes, so you can't write a book that everybody is going to love. You'll always have people who hate it for one reason or another, and just remember that if somebody hates it, then the book wasn't written for them. It was written for the people who love it. So always write something that means something to you. Because if you write something that is important to you, then when you find out that somebody else loves it, it just makes it even more special.
How can we get more Malone stories into our lives?
You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/N.Malone8. Or you can check out my website, N.Malone.net. And finally, you can find my books on Amazon by doing a search for Etani, and that'll find you the entire series with the book 4 coming out on October 20th. Thank you for having me on your channel, Miguel. This has been really fun, and I look forward to seeing what else you create in the future.
It was great having you here, Nikita, and I hope this is not the last time. Well, we have now reached the end, but before you go, follow Malone and make yourself a favor by reading Etani. A link will be on the description box. Also, my wish will be that you all be back next week. I do not have the chicken jewel, but I still hope you can make it happen. Bye bye.